pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Ms. D'Annunzio, you're a graduate of one of our high schools. What are you doing next?
I plan to go to Palm Beach State for 2 years, and then from there I plan to move to New Jersey.
Well, best of luck to you. Viewers and listeners can access the meeting today by either watching on Comcast channels 234 and 235, UVerse channel 99, or using the YouTube link on our webpage at palmbeachschools.org. In the event that the link is interrupted for technical reasons, please switch over to the TV channels. All board meetings are recorded in their entirety and posted on the district website within 24 hours. We also offer a listening-only option which the public can access by calling 561-357-5900 or toll-free at 1-866-930-7015. The meeting ID is 1-561-880-1124 #. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome any public speakers who are joining us today. The school board supports the peaceful assembly of persons to express themselves regarding matters concerning district students, employees, and the community. As a reminder, public comments must relate to the subject matter of the agenda item for which the speaker had requested to address. Pursuant to school board policy, speakers whose comments do not relate to the topic that the speaker indicated, including but not limited to the mention of any person's candidacy for elected office, are subject to having the microphone turned off and forfeiting the right to speak at the remainder of today's meeting. Again, your attendance here at the board meeting is appreciated. Thank you for helping us to maintain decorum, civility, and the orderly conduct of school board business. Board members, we have 8 items of minutes on the agenda. We need a motion to approve those. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We've added 3 items to the agenda for good cause. Item FC9, Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School. Good cause exists for adding this item to the agenda to provide the use of water utility services at Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School. I guess we need water before we can have the kids come in August. FC10, West Boynton Middle School. Good cause exists for adding this item to the agenda to provide the use of water utility services at West Boynton Middle School. And P2, personal addendum. Good cause exists for adding this item so that the employees can begin in their new positions as soon as possible. Superintendent, do you have any items you're withdrawing?
No, sir.
Board members, are you pulling any items from the agenda? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Are there any disclosures or abstentions? Seeing none, we will move to committee reports. The only committee report that we have is attached to the agenda, and it's from Construction Oversight Review Committee. General Cunt? You're right. Skipped over comments. Of course, we need to hear from our superintendent. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you, Chairman Barbieri. I do have some comments tonight, and I'd like to let everyone know that the Council of Great City Schools has got some new leadership in place. Please help me congratulate our very own District 6 board member, Ms. Marsha Andrews. She has been selected to serve as chair-elect for the 2023-24 school year for the Council of Great City Schools, and which will be followed by chair in 24-25. This is an incredible honor. Yeah, big round of applause. For those of you who don't know, the Council of Great City Schools is a coalition made up of 78 of the nation's largest urban public school systems, and it's dedicated to the improvement of education for children in the inner cities. This is a tremendous honor and well-deserved, Mrs. Andrews. Thank you. And that's not the only distinction our board received this summer. Both Mrs. Andrews and District 7 board member, Mr. Edwin Ferguson, along with Dr. Presley Charles, our principal at Howell Watkins Middle School, have been recognized in the 2023 list of South Florida's top black educators published by Legacy Miami magazine. They are among a distinguished group of South Florida educators with strong records of excellence and positive leadership. And this summer, I wanted to highlight, we've had different summer programs in place. One of those is a summer reading academy at 28 schools across Palm Beach County. I had the honor of working for a little bit with Miss Sirica Brown at Gove Elementary School. She's a remarkable reading teacher, and she showed me a little bit about teaching reading, helping our kids stay on track and get ready for the new school year. So if you'll indulge me, I want to share a little video. It was a humbling experience. You know, teaching reading is a science, and I've had different assignments in these Burke at Work episodes, and I'm better off, I think, in the maintenance field. But anyway, I think the video will tell the story. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? It's a pleasure to join you today. I hear you're learning about vowels. We're here at the Gove Elementary School out in the Glades. We're in Mrs. Brown's third grade classroom.
Like you're biting that apple.
Mrs. Brown is doing an excellent job of teaching our students how to read, and that starts today. We started with the building blocks, you know, with the vowels, and then sounding out the vowels and starting to put words together.
Your lesson will entail differentiating between the short and the long vowel sounds.
All right, everybody, you just ran through your vowels. You understand the vowels are special letters, right? Because they can make more than what? More than one sound, exactly right. This is a great program here at Gove Elementary. We're happy to offer it at 28 schools across Palm Beach County this summer. And you know, reading it's like playing a sport. You've got to practice. And the more we can keep kids reading over the summer, whether it be here in our program or at home with their parents with a book, it all helps. I mean, teaching reading is an art form.
It is, but we learn how to improvise. Comprehension and understanding what you're reading is very important for a struggling reader. So understanding the sounds and how sounds transfer into letters, sounds, words, and stories.
Yeah. Guys are good.
Itch.
When they get an answer right, and you see the smile, see their face light up, and you can actually kind of see the learning taking place, it's really rewarding. I think we're 100% on that one. Being a reading teacher is actually one of the most challenging jobs in the district. There's a lot of science to teaching reading. It's just not that easy to say, hey, pick up a book and start reading.
I love my job. I'm passionate. Just seeing a smile on a child's face and remembering they learned something that Ms. Brown taught them.
I'm just in awe of Ms. Brown's capabilities and her commitment to our students, and it's an honor for me to be able to tag along today.
Ray, good job, Adrian.
The long A, very good, Ray.
I will hire him. I just need a sub number.
Well, that's good. We're a team.
18.
So you can see Ms. Brown's terrific out there at Gove Elementary. One of the other priorities that started back in the spring was preparing for the class of 2036 to have our kindergartners show up for school as ready as possible. And the team's done a great job of both marketing, time to register, and our school's coordinating that effort, providing tours to parents. For the first time ever, we provided kindergarten readiness kits, both for English language arts and math. And then we've also put out a series of videos showing parents how to use those kits. And if we're really optimistic about this, we think we've had great feedback. People seem to appreciate the effort, and it really helped those kindergartners get a leg up on their when it comes time to learn to read there. So that's been going on. And then lastly, for our parents out there that've got to do some back-to-school shopping, I just wanted to mention that the tax-free holiday starts on Monday, July 24th, and will run through Sunday, August 6th. And then we're back in school on Thursday, August 10th. So we're looking forward to kicking off a new school year. And a lot of hard work's been going on throughout the district to prepare to welcome our families back to our schools. So thank you, Chairman Barbieri. That completes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Ms. McQuinn shaking her head no. Mrs. Whitfield? None. Mrs. Andrews?
Yes, good afternoon to everyone, and hopefully you're enjoying your summer. I'd like to congratulate all of the graduates who will be marching tomorrow at graduation. You did it. You really did it. All the students who've been in our summer programs, our enrichment programs, students who've been in summer camp having fun. It's all about learning and knowing that every day counts. And so we want to congratulate our students who will be receiving their diplomas tomorrow. What a wonderful, wonderful thing for them to have taken the initiative to make it happen, to get that diploma. It means everything. So I thank all of you who continue to work during the summer to help our children, and I want you to take a break before we begin. August 10th will be here before you know it. Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to welcome everybody back from a much too brief summer vacation. I actually was able to partake of one myself for the first time in 18 years. It felt pretty good. I'm thinking moving forward, I'll probably take about a week or so off every quarter to recharge. But in any event, school is only a month away, and I'm really stoked about it. We had a very, very productive summer here in District 7. We had the ELC collaborative town halls throughout the area back in early June or late June. Well, late June. It was great, but we're probably going to do that one again in August or September. A lot of our parents were kind of out traveling here, there, and everywhere, so we want to make sure that they get that information so they know how easy it is to sign up for all the good things that ELC and Children's Services Council, for that matter, have available to our young and, I guess, rising pre-K and kindergarten students. Also, I'm really stoked about where we are with the school safety program. I know it's still in the pilot stage, but speaking with Superintendent Burke, it looks like something that's moving forward, and we're going to kind of be up to speed 100% through all of our high schools by the end of next year, which is great. And then I know we're going to scale it up to get to the middle school and elementary schools, which I know will help to ensure that our schools are as safe as they possibly can be. So I want to thank Mr. Burke and his team, Chief Mooney and everyone else, for kind of spearheading that initiative. Also, community partnerships. I've been doing a little thing I call Project Aladdin throughout District 7, whereby we're looking to raise funds from our local business partners to help support our schools to make sure that if there are any financial shortfalls they need for various programs, whether it be mentorship, field trips, ACT prep, you name it, those principals have those funds available so that they can kind of help maximize our students' opportunities K all the way through 12. So I'm going to be continuing to work on that through this school year, and also trying to kind of encourage some of my fellow elected officials in District 7 to get out and fundraise as well. I think we should not just simply do it when it's time for election time, but do it all the time, because what's more important than our children, our students, and our community. So happy to continue to work on that. One thing I am interested in having a fuller discussion on, I guess previewing for this upcoming year, is teacher pay. I do think it's I know we have some anticipated budgetary shortfalls, but I think we need to look at that. I know that at least one board member down in Broward, and I see our recently hired Superintendent Pete Licata down in Broward, they're already kind of putting the pressure on him to try to raise teacher pay down there. I mean, that is the elephant in the room, and that's something that we need to try to do all we can to increase to help attract and retain teachers. But in any event, I'm looking forward to this school year, and I'm very happy to be working with you all. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ferguson. Vice Chairwoman Brew? No comments? All right, let me get the sad stuff out of the way first. Every month at this meeting, we recognize those employees who have passed away. The first one is Rosie Warren. She was a manager in food service at Pahokee Middle Senior High. She was born September 5th, 1959, and died May 27th, 2023. Richard Williams was a specialist, too, in IT solutions, research and evaluation. He was born on April 28th, 1961, and he passed away April 19th, 2023. And Alexa Yao, teacher, elementary 4 at Barton Elementary. She was born February 18th, 1963, and she died April 1st, 2023. If we could have a moment of silence for these employees and their families, appreciate it. Thank you very much. In addition to that, tonight I've dedicated some of my comment time for us to take a moment to bid farewell to Dr. Peter Licata, who has dedicated an impressive 28 years of service to the Palm Beach County School District. The IT department is running some photos. Just keep them running in a loop, if you would, while I have a few remarks here. As he embarks on a new journey as the superintendent of schools for Broward County, I'd like to reflect on his many contributions and achievements for our own district. Dr. Licata's journey within the Palm Beach County School District has been extraordinary. From his roles as the principal of Olympic Heights High School, school in my district, and Boca Raton Community Middle School, another school in my district, to his leadership positions as Assistant Superintendent of Choice and Innovation, to other various roles, to his most recent position as South Regional Superintendent, he has left such a positive mark on our district. In particular, as Assistant Superintendent of Choice and Innovation, Dr. Licata's leadership led to our district being the leader in the state in providing choice and career options via the hundreds of academy programs offered to our students in our high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. Dr. Licata's commitment to education and his unwavering dedication to the students and staff of the Palm Beach County School District have been truly inspiring. We are grateful for his leadership, his passion, and his tireless efforts to ensure that every student receives a quality education. As Dr. Licata begins this new chapter in his career, we extend our warmest wishes to him and his family. Thank you, Dr. Licata, for your invaluable contributions to our district, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations, Dr. Licata. So we have no student government report, so it's a perfect time to call on delegates and elected officials. And although he's neither, I'll call up to the podium Superintendent Peter Licata.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for that. I don't think there's enough time for the next week for me to thank the folks in here that have made an impact on my life. There is so many people here, or not here, that have changed my trajectory. From the three Lewises that, if you've been in the building, you know who the three Lewises are, our custodians that maintain a different floor at each level, all the way to Mr. Barbieri, who I met back when he was running for school board, and I dispatched a bunch of seniors that needed some community service time to graduate to help him as he campaigned way back when. I've learned a lot, and I can say thank you, and I say thank you to this board specifically because all of you went out of your way this last month to make sure they understood they were hiring the right person. Broward's a little different. I spent an 11-hour meeting yesterday. That's normal. They didn't think that was out of the ordinary. We're going to have to work on that a little bit. We're going to look at a little Palm Beach down there. But most importantly, I don't know if I get there without your support or without the support of some of the folks sitting back over here. It's hard to leave Palm Beach County. I'm parked in my old spot, so I hope I don't get towed. But at the end of the day, I've learned so much here that I can impart in Broward County. It's a whirlwind. It's amazing. It's incredible. Yes, you'll hear me talk about catching Palm Beach and making them chase us. Yes, our teacher pay is going to be far more than yours in about 2-3 weeks. But that's okay because I know you guys will respond the exact same way. And that's okay when we focus on teachers and we start making that a priority. But at the end of the day, the title superintendent, your title doesn't make who you are. It's who you are that makes the title. And I know I have a driver, and I know I got security, and I know I get people doing this and doing that. But at the end of the day, I'm amazed at what they do more than what I do. They look at me and say, how do you do all this at the same time? And I look at them and say, thank you. I can't believe you've been here. We said goodbye to a bunch of custodians, or hello to a bunch of custodians that have worked over 40 years in the same school down in Broward County. And I know we have them here. And schools don't operate without custodians. They open the gates at 5 and they leave at 11. We can't forget them, too, when we start talking about money. And I think we're going to do this in concert. I know we will. But I can't say thank you enough to all those in this room, especially those in the front row and the second row here that I've been hand in hand with on so many things, except for you, Miss Wyatt. You're half the reason why I applied, so I could get away from you. You know you weren't going to get away with that. But I also have to say that I'm very proud that I left at the right time when I saw an instructional superintendent get promoted to chief of staff. I saw an instructional superintendent get promoted to deputy superintendent in Fort Pierce, and I saw an instructional superintendent get promoted to regional superintendent with Ms. Capitano down there. If that's not a clean sweep home run, I don't know what is. And it's about team. It's about working together for the same thing. And I know that when I was in the South region, we always talked about one thing and one thing only: what's best for students. And I think that's always the key. Mr. Burke, I want to thank you for your support through this. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot. I'll be calling you and saying, is this how this thing goes? Is this real? Is this true? But more importantly, I can't say thank you enough to the board and Ms. Ayala, who is not here. I know Dr. J is back there, and if I don't say thanks, Dr. J, because you know he's the reason why I got this job, because he called me one night screaming and yelling about moving me to make me principal, and from that point on, there he is. From that point on, it was a good trajectory. So I thank him because he was the one who got me started. So thank you all, and I look forward to you. And I'm going to go. I need to call my wife real quick because I want to thank her, and she hates when I call people up. And we're going to go to dinner.
Superintendent Licata, you're really out of time, but we'll allow your wife to come up.
Well, I was going to bring up masks, but I'll leave that alone for now. I want to thank my wife because without her, we're nowhere, and I appreciate you. So now we're going to go date night because we haven't seen each other in about 5-6 days. So we're going to thank you all. Mr. Barbieri, thank you for your time.
Welcome. I forgot one other part, and I didn't take up my whole 4 minutes. I just want to recognize that that we have an outstanding principal in my district who just was tonight on our agenda, or will be tonight on our agenda, moved into a regional instructional superintendent for elementary, and that's Alicia Steiger from Sunrise Park Elementary. So congratulations, Ms. Steiger, for getting that, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for picking a great replacement for Mrs. Capitano, who's now the regional superintendent. So thank you for that. The other speakers that we have on the list are Claudia Kirk-Bartow, Teresa West, Shernette Grant. Please come up to the microphone. In any order that you get there is fine.
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, Vice Chair Brill, board members, Superintendent Burke. I'm Claudia Kirk-Bartow, the president of Junior Achievement of the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast. And I don't have any fabulous stories this time since it's summer break and all of our students are interning with the district or off on adventures all over the world. I will just share a few statistics, and I made a kind of a handout, so I don't know if I can hand it over to take up front. Is that okay? Do you mind? It has our impact numbers for the year as we wrap up our overall statistics for last school year, which ended, and we're excited about the upcoming school year. So we reached 135,953 students this school year with about 20 different programs, but I'll just highlight 4 of them. The JA Inspire program that we launched this year. It's a middle school career exploration program that brings together local businesses and students to help inspire their future career paths. And we did that at 4 schools, and we'll be expanding this year. Our 3DE program at Lake Worth High School, it's a school choice program, and it re-engineers high school education to be more relevant, experiential, authentically connected to the complexities of the real world. that's a mouthful, you'll just have to come visit Lake Worth High School and see it in action. We had our first graduating class this year. The JA Career Exploration Fairs, these are events where elementary school students learn about a range of career options across multiple career clusters. And then we have the great JA Career Speaker Series that brings relevant, highly engaging professionals into the classroom to spark discussion through engaging students in real-world experiences and inspiring career exploration post-secondary options. And I know you're all reading the beautiful handout, so I'll also say those 135,000 students were in over 3,000 classes, and we worked with 814 unique educators, but some of those educators did multiple programs, so we really thank them. And our volunteers, we couldn't do this without the community's support of volunteers and our high school heroes that I've talked about before. So that 758 volunteer number includes those high school heroes from various high schools. And finally, as we officially wrap up our fiscal year, we're really proud of the $1.3 million investment that we make into the students and schools throughout the district. So when we want to really thank each and every one of our volunteers and educators who've helped us make such a positive impact in our schools. And it's not only our mission and passion to empower the future generation with both the mindset and the skill set to succeed. Our successes could not be possible without the support of the school board and our community volunteers. And we look forward to the school year coming up in just a couple weeks. Oh my goodness. So have a great evening. Thank you for letting me share the information.
Thank you, President Bartko, for all you do for our students. Thank you very much. Teresa West, Chief Engagement Officer for the Education Foundation. Mr. Gavrilis, I understand, has COVID, so he couldn't be here this evening.
He does. So we wish him well. Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, Superintendent Burke, and the school board. I'm filling in for James Gavrilos on behalf of the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County, and I want to start by introducing our magnificent new chair of the board, Lisa Park from Seacoast Bank.
Thank you. I know so many of you. I have been serving on the board for 8 years. I've been chairing our programs and grants for the last 4 years, and I have to say it's an honor. I'm actually the first female board chair, so we're excited. Go Girl Power. But I will say it's an incredible organization. I know you all know that. There's a lot of great work that we do. Teresa's going to share with you all the great things happening at Red Apple. Putting on my programs and grants hat, I'm going to put a plug for all the educators that are out there listening. We have had an overwhelming response to our annual Go Teach applications and grant awards. We are hitting numbers that we have never seen before. So just a reminder to all the educators out there, our deadline's coming up on August 8th. So there's a lot of applications in there and in the pipeline that we want you to finish up so that we can do our scoring and give out lots and lots of money to our incredible teachers. I will also say, just on behalf of the board, I think you all know we've got an amazing board, but we are more fortunate because we have a staff like Teresa and James and Jennifer and the names I could go on, but we have the most incredible nonprofit staff that I would put up against anybody in the county. So my goal as your chair for the next 2 years is going to be to continue to empower our educators. We're going to continue to inspire our children and together really make a difference in Palm Beach County. So it's an honor, and I look forward to seeing you all at many, many events coming up. So back to Teresa.
Thank you, Lisa. So does anyone know what this is? A backpack. It's not just a backpack. It is the future. It carries self-esteem, provides hope. It boosts motivation, offers opportunity, and improves confidence and interest. So a backpack provides so much more than a new pencil, new notebook, fresh boxes of crayons. Imagine it's the first day of school and you walk into your new classroom, you meet your new teacher, see your new desk, your new name tag, but you don't have those essential materials to be productive for the assignments. For the first year, just 4 years ago, when our backpack initiative was born, we distributed 2,500 backpacks. The second year, we distributed 5,000 backpacks. Third year, 10,000. And last year in 2022, the Education Foundation distributed over 17,000 backpacks filled with essential school supplies. Well, this year, in August of 2023, we are excited to share a record-breaking number that we will be distributing 20,000 backpacks. 20,000 backpacks will be distributed to, thank you, deserves a round of applause. Will be distributed to 32 Palm Beach County schools, which is actually 15% of the school district. So that is why our new facility also is so important, just as the expansion and the capacity grows, along with our programs and initiatives. So we could not do this alone. Our champions of education who have come in to help fund these programs and backpacks, but also who have spent countless hours of packing and will continue to pack 20,000 backpacks. But along with those champions of education, we have our Sheriff's Office, U.S. Sugar, C. Kenneth Laura Baxter Foundation, Simpatico Real Estate, Pratt & Whitney, Jazirna Group, NCCI, the list goes on, Wycliffe Charities Foundation, Carrier, Seacoast Bank, thank you, Lisa, Gunster, Lesser, Landy & Smith, B&I Contractors, Comcast, Proctor Construction, Core Construction, and Vertical Bridge. So new school supplies have always symbolized new beginnings. So this year, let's give our students the chance they deserve to educate, affirm, and inspire. Thank you.
Thank you. Shernette Grant, the Chief Program Officer for Junior Achievement of South Florida. Ms. Bartow was from Junior Achievement of the Treasure Coast.
That's right. Good afternoon, good evening, Board Chair Barbieri, board members, Superintendent Berg. Thank you for allowing me to just address the board and the community for a few minutes. If you will remember, earlier in the school year in the fall, I visited just to say hello and to share, for those who didn't know, and to remind those who forgot, that Junior Achievement of South Florida, which is the Broward-based JA office, Ms. Bartow is Palm Beach and Treasure Coast, actually does serve Boca Raton and Delray Beach schools. That is a part of our, don't like to call it territory because it sounds territorial, but it is our area. So this school year, we were on a mission to make sure that we were engaging with the schools in Boca and Delray, and through just the generosity of many of your board members and Mr. Licata, who I wanted to say thank you to publicly because he was very instrumental in getting me connected with the principals and the instructional superintendents in the South region, and we were actually able to connect with a number of schools. This year we had Carver Middle School actually visit us for the very first time, and they participated in our JA Finance Spark program, which is intended to teach kids about financial literacy in the 8th grade. So they visited our building. We have an amazing facility, an amazing building which offers a simulation that goes alongside the curriculum that we teach in JA. Much like Ms. Bartow, we serve a lot of students with a lot of the same programs, but we wanted to make sure that we do engage those schools. We're in talks right now with a couple of your high schools. Atlantic is definitely excited about coming down next year to be a part of some of our high school programs. So we are super excited that we're starting to engage those schools who were not getting services from JA because they were kind of, we just had not really made the extra effort. So on behalf of my CEO, Ms. Lori Salarulo, who again, you will see at another meeting, she just brings greetings to you and a commitment to making sure that the schools in Boca and Delray are also receiving junior achievement services. And we look forward to even more productive school year next year, 23-24. And we're looking forward to engaging your middle and your elementary and your high schools in JA programs. So, publicly, Dr. Licata, who just left, congratulations again. He mentioned, the Broward pieces prior to joining JA last year. I spent 23 years with Broward School, so when he talked about the 10-hour meetings, Mr. Barbieri, I'm quite familiar with those. So I know exactly the work he's got cut out for him, but I'm excited. I know it's bittersweet for Palm Beach, but we're excited to have him down in Broward as well. So again, I just wanted to circle back, sort of like the full circle at the end of the school year, to say, first of all, thank you for being open. Board member Whitfield and Ferguson, we met and, had some conversations about your schools and Mr. Barbieri, and definitely we will continue to work with those schools to make sure that they too are receiving the quality programs that are being delivered through JA, whether through Palm Beach, Treasure Coast, or through JA of South Florida. So again, thank you all for the time. I wish you all, well, summer's almost over, but I do wish you all a great school year. Thank you.
Thank you. our new president from the Classroom Teachers Association, Mr. Gordon Longhuffer.
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, Superintendent Burke, members of the school board, Vice Chair Brill, to single those out. Honored guests, I am pleased to be here tonight for the first time in my capacity as president of the Classroom Teachers Association. I'm humbled and honored to be here on behalf of them. As we embark on another school year, this is indeed one of the most exciting times that we have. Rooms in just about 2 weeks and a couple of days, rooms are going to be filled with teachers preparing their classrooms to receive their students on the first day. They'll receive them openly and warmly. They will keep them safe, and they will do their best each and every day to help those children reach their academic potential. I'm confident going forward in my new capacity that we're going to continue to work closely together to make Palm Beach the place to come and teach in Florida and have that impact on student lives so that they can become our future leaders and be successful as adults. To that end, I will be reaching out to each of you personally to share some contact information, perhaps set up some meetings where we can just sit down and chat and get to know one another, not just about things pertaining to our association and teachers, but personally, because we will do our best work when those connections are made beyond what goes on in the workplace, where we can indeed identify shared values and just know that this is indeed a good relationship where we can move forward. I want to thank you all for this time. I want to thank you personally for all that you have done, are doing, and will continue to do for public education in Palm Beach County. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thank you. Jane Tierney, Coalition for Black Student Achievement.
Good evening, everybody. We just have brief comments tonight, so I hope you find that good news. Our statement is we want to encourage more community involvement in the selection and assignment of new principals. We believe it's important to provide the opportunity and forums where community members and parents can be heard. They have a unique perspective. They have a level of understanding of the school culture, of the parental, community, and neighborhood needs and concerns. Management research shows that a diversity of perspective leads to better decision making. By bringing in people with different cultural backgrounds, you can enhance creativity and gain a fresh perspective on the task. In addition, by listening to their voices, you will build trust. Open communication builds trust, and you're showing that you value what they can add. This leads to ongoing support for your efforts, for your decisions. They may not always agree, but they know that they're trusted and valued. The coalition wants you to know that we are very available to help in any way, in any future process involving the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with the agenda topic speakers. We have 4. Ann Siegel, Donald Pearson, Robbie Littles to start with. Go ahead, ma'am, state your name.
Ann Siegel. I'm the legal director at Disability Rights Florida. Disability Rights Florida is our protection and advocacy agency for the state of Florida, and we have a duty to look out for the interests of people with disabilities, including children in our schools. We've been working since 1977 to make sure that people with disabilities in Florida are safe and treated fairly. As part of that duty, we've looked at the district's use of the Baker Act on children with disabilities. Children with disabilities are some of our most vulnerable to trauma of being handcuffed by police and taken away from their school and family to the hospital. We are glad to see that the district is open to continuous improvement of the Baker Act policies. To ensure that children are kept safe and the rights of all children and families, especially those with disabilities, are respected, important terms, definitions, and statutory citations must be correct and consistent throughout this policy and related district policies. Terms such as threat and risk of harm need to be specifically defined and used consistently so school staff and police know what types of threats and what level of risk of harm warrant transportation. School staff, including district police officers and those who are contracted to serve the district, must be trained not only on the words of the policy, but on how developmental disabilities appear in children and how to discern behaviors related to a developmental disability from those related to mental illness. Information about a child's developmental disability available from school staff and school records should be used to determine whether they meet the criteria for involuntary transportation under a Baker Act. Parents must not only be contacted early on in the incident involving their child, but also be invited to actively work with the school staff on calming their child. Handcuffs should never be used for children experiencing a crisis. If they are used at all, it must be limited to only the most extreme circumstances where no other alternative to ensuring safety is available. Incidents where the Baker Act is used on a student must be carefully tracked, and non-identifying data must be publicly reported so that the community can see the district's progress. The district needs a system of reviewing Baker Acts on students at the school level to determine whether the school staff complied with their policy and training. And if it's determined that a particular incident did not comport with the policies, procedures, or the law, the district must have a process for retraining those involved. The district needs a way to review use of Baker Act on students at the district level to look for patterns and broader issues that allows for participation from parents and community stakeholders. The district must have a simple complaint process related to Baker Act use so that the community can be heard by the district. And Disability Rights Florida is committed to work with the district on Policy 5.20. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Pearson, Robbie Littles. All right, and I have a blue card from Adrian Smith who wants to speak on agenda items CEW3 and CEW4. Mr. Smith.
Greetings and shalom to everyone. Yes, I'd like to share a word on some of the progress of these events that are coming up and to the attention of the schools, and a very important aspects of these problems that I myself had experienced these past 2 years with my son. And I'm glad to see that they are putting into effect an involuntary assessment terms. You know, we're not used to these kinds of things, and things have changed over time. Going back, I can remember going to airports, and there was never any checking of luggage. Everything was fairly carefree. And I remember back in time when even in the stores with the medicines and things, they did not have sealed medicines and everything. Things have changed. Times have changed. Security has changed. And I'm glad that we have a new member on the board that has gone public with this and said we have a problem with threats, mental health, weapons brought into school, and we want to wand these people when they come to school campus. We want a drug-free, a weapon-free campus, a healthy campus. And I think that that's critical, and that's the kind of leadership we need that can go to the public, go to the media and say, we have this problem, we want to fix it, and we are going to take these steps to do that. That's leadership, not covering up items that come up, problems that come up, finding legal teams to write off protesters about these topics of concern and trying to shoo them away from the campus, like what happened in my case, where the director himself directly got his legal team involved and had them write something up to have me shooed away from the campus, talking about these items. However, in light of the fact that these things have been come to progress, and it's good to see that they are going to be doing these assessments on campus, it's critical. Just like in the workplace, we have random drug tests, we need them in schools. What's going to be important now is going to be to deal with the ways that they can also get around these things. And I can tell you that firsthand that corporations, there are people that actually take urine bags and put them under their arms and take them to work. Blood tests, hair samples, we've got to get on top of it Otherwise, it goes out of control. I'm glad to see the steps that are being taken. I'm glad to see leadership is taking its role, and that these steps have come to this point. And I'm very happy to see that, and I'm here to support that and to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's going to make change. Thanks for letting me share.
Last call for Donald Pearson and Robbie Littles.
Right here.
Go ahead.
Don Pearson, Palm Beach County school teacher, getting ready to start my 42nd year in this county. And again, I talk about personnel because this school district, on my way here, I was listening to an ad on the radio about, hey, register. We're the number one county, an A-rated county, and I'm proud of that, and I know you're proud of that. So we do a lot of good things, but when we do things that aren't so good, they seem to go over the top, and what I'm talking about is personnel. I'll only talk about just one item. Excuse me for squinting. I didn't do my time right. I just came from the eye doctor, and my eyes are dilated, so these lights are bright. What I noticed on here, the termination during the probation period, 11 teachers were dismissed during the probation period. And I know of 2 of them. And I don't think they were vetted correctly. Now, that's my opinion. So what I'm just asking for everybody's, benefit is, as the gatekeepers, I just ask you again to vet these people. Because some of them don't deserve to be there. When a principal has the autonomy to say, hey, you go or you stay, and no one questions it, that brings into play some things that might not, might not be so transparent, I guess. You wouldn't say, hey, probation period, I'm getting rid of you. Because of your religious or ethnic. That would never happen. But what does happen is, hey, we got to get rid of you. What's the reason? We don't have to give you one. So you can hide behind that. Is that happening? I can't say. But what I can say is some of these teachers aren't vetted. And if we're going to do right by everybody, we should vet them because some of them don't deserve that. And when we're in a county that I think we're 3rd in the nation on inflation, depending on what you look at, from 9% to 10.1%, jobs and families are important. So when someone, just by the luck of the draw, has a principal that may just dismiss you, where another principal would help you if you needed the help, I think we deserve to give that to teachers, and that actually filters all the way down to students. So that's, again, I talk about that. I'm proud to be in this county, but the things we need to fix, I just ask you, let's be a little more prudent on doing that. Thank you.
Board members, are any item you wish to pull from consent at this time? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Ms. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And take us to new business. The first item is a BRD item. I recommend the board approve the superintendent's employment agreement. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? Mrs. Whitfield?
I just think someone should say something. I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Burke, for being interested in coming and staying here and continuing to do this work with us. We're very, very fortunate to have you after especially watching how difficult it was for Broward, and then they were so lucky to get Dr. Licata. I'm very glad you don't want to leave us, so thank you, and it's an absolute pleasure to keep you on, and hopefully you'll be here well past the next election cycle. Thank you.
And I too want to thank Mr. Berg for really showing great leadership here in Palm Beach County. You're a part of the Palm Beach County family, and we just grew you right up into your superintendency here in Palm Beach County. And we have to make sure that we validate you with the right type of salary, the right type of contract to let you know we value the work that you do for our children, our employees each and every day. And so when I looked at the modifications that we did, it puts you right on track so that we can be competitive with Broward and all these other big 6 school districts across the state of Florida. And we're going to keep you right here. And we thank you for all that you do.
Vice Chairwoman Brill.
Thank you. So I just want to say ditto to what my colleagues have said. But for the public, I don't know that all of you know how fortunate we are to have someone sitting as the superintendent of our district who is truly an expert on Florida school board finance, because we have huge challenges ahead. We've had huge challenges behind us, but Mr. Burke understands all the intricacies of the budget, and that is such a valuable tool. And as I see him tweaking his cabinet and his leadership team, I'm just immensely impressed. So I, too, want to just chime in and say thank you for all that you do. I know that working with me is sometimes a challenge because I'm quite open when we meet behind closed doors. But I appreciate you every day and just look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you. And I want to thank my colleagues for giving me the authority to work with Mr. Burke on bringing a contract back to you. I think that, while I've been on this board, I think we've had 6 superintendents. I think the most important thing this board can do is create the stability that a district needs to be successful. In the last 4 years, 61 of the 67 school districts in Florida have replaced their superintendent. I wanted to make sure that I'll be gone, as all of you know, after the 2024 election. I wanted to make sure that this board has a superintendent in place that will guide this district for the next 5 years, and so you can all concentrate your efforts on all the other major issues we have rather than trying to find a replacement for Mr. Burke, which I think would probably be a really tough job to do because I don't think we could have found a better person to handle this position. So thank you for supporting the contract that I brought for you. Thank you for supporting the superintendent. Mr. Burke, I hope you're here long after I'm gone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next item, Mr. Superintendent, CEW 1.
Yes, I recommend the board approve the adoption of the list of instructional materials for the periods indicated and authorize the superintendent or designee to sign all related documents to the FY24 Instructional Materials Program, English Language Development, ELD, Instructional Materials, grades 6 through 12, not to exceed $871,403.78.
Motion by Ms. Vice Chairwoman Brill, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. FC 9.
Chairman Barbieri, could I just maybe go back to, I'd like to make a comment. It's okay.
Mr. Superintendent,
I just real quick.
It's your meeting. You can do whatever you want.
I want to thank the board. I greatly appreciate your vote of confidence. I'm really enjoying this work, and to have the opportunity to do it for potentially 5 more years is incredibly exciting to me. There's no other team I'd want to be on than Team Palm Beach, and I've been fortunate that I feel like we're heading in the right direction. The team has supported me and kind of rallied around me, and although I know we have a lot of work to be done, I truly feel like we're heading in the right direction and that we're committed to doing right by kids, and we're going to work really hard next year. So thank you. Okay, I got a job to do here, right? Let's see. FC 9. I recommend the school board grant a public utility easement for plus or minus 1.286 acres and approve bill of sale in the amount of $256,410.23 for water and sewer improvements at Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School, parenthetically 03-000, project number 0251-8368, to Palm Beach County, care of Water Utilities Department, and authorize the chairman and superintendent to finalize and execute all related documents.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, FC 10. I recommend the school board grant public utility easement and approve bill of sale in the amount of $213,902.47 for potable water facilities and components to Palm Beach County, care of Water Utilities Department for West Boynton Middle School, parenthetically 17-PP, project number 0041-8462, and authorize the chairman and superintendent to finalize and execute all related documents.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
P2. I recommend the school board approve the personnel addendum as amended.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. That ends the items on the agenda other than the non-agenda topic speakers and a couple board discussion items. So we'll start with non-agenda topic speakers. I'll call you 3 at a time. Please come up to the closest microphone. Watch the clock. Please start with stating your name. Brother Carl Muhammad, Ezekiel Edmonds, and Benizia Forte.
Carl Muhammad. Earlier you was talking about banning books, and one of the books that I believe has been banned is the Superintendent Task Force for African American Children, particularly the African American male child. Now this is a book that gives you all of the, when the call went out to Palm Beach County to try to repair some of the damage that was done to our children, these are some of the people that came to resolve that problem, but it doesn't appear that you are taking this too seriously. And when you mentioned the past 6 superintendent, it's been put on a shelf somewhere, and we are hoping that you would take it back off the shelf and put it back into the psychology of what's going on in the county. And as we listened earlier, we heard all the support is going to those schools inside of our community, but very seldom do you hear about any resources coming to the community so that we can share our ideas with you. I want to thank you, Mr. Barbarieri, for at least reaching out to us and saying that you would support us in such an endeavor, because we turned over some ideas to your administration, but evidently they approved it earlier, and then they came back and it's been totally, well, at least we don't know what happened to it. Now, last meeting I asked you if everyone up there, that if y'all could give us some kind of idea as it relates to what you are doing as it relates for African American children. We know the failure of last year and the year before, and we are hoping that you have something concrete that we can take back into our community. I understand a lot of people want to come in, and because it is a lot of resources supposedly centered around our activity, because we are all on the bottom. But I'm hoping that you would pay attention to those things that are serious for our community. That's the reason why I say our community needs some resources so that we can do some things, because evidently the love and the respect that we need, we're not getting it the way we're supposed to. And I'm not arguing with anybody, but I'm just sharing with everybody, because all of you know that I've been here continuously trying to bring some kind of reality from my community. And I hope and pray sincerely that you would take that under consideration as we move forward for this year. And one of the, 2 of the words that I wanted to introduce is educational reparations. You know, we've had a hell of an injury inside of our community, as we discovered by the Florida Statute 1003.42H, that we were being miseducated. And inside of that reparation, we need the support, the mental support, all of the different kinds of support that you say that you profess, and the science says that you're going to do everything for every child. So if you can, we would appreciate it very much if we could get a little bit more rigor in our conversation and our direction as it relates to what you're planning on doing for us in specific, because we don't get a chance to get up in that all black thing, all right? And I'll see what's happening. Reach back out to you, Mr. Burke, one more time. Superintendent Task Force for African American Children, particularly the African American male child. It's got a lot of information. Thank you.
Ezekiel Edmonds, Benizia Forte, Ashley Labad.
Greetings. I'm Benisa Forte, an educator a certified educator since 1993. I have over 20 years of teaching experience, juvenile justice, elementary. I was an adjunct professor, all of those things over in Broward County. I came over to this school district last year. I applied and attained a graduation coach position at a school in Delray. This summer, I had a wonderful opportunity to do the re-engagement program, which was successful. On Thursday was their last day, last Thursday. The principal released me, and then I got a notice from HR saying that I could not go and continue my work in the fall with the re-engagement students because of a priority list. I checked the priority list. I called HR. I called the union, and the name, Village Academy's name, is not on the priority list. So, and also the reason that I would like to go to go to Riviera Beach Prep to continue what I have done this summer, because that is my forte, not just my name, but my strong point in building children up, especially those who are considered disadvantaged.
and the most vulnerable. And the position, if I stay at Village Academy, would be to teach elementary physical education. I did not come here to teach physical education. I came as a graduation coach. And so I'm asking you all to reconsider that list, because we know that great teachers who are as passionate as I am, 55 years of age, and I've been doing this for a very long time, I'm doing it because I want to, because I find edifying all students rewarding. It's my soul work. And I know my plight. And for a principal to tell me they're going to put me here when I know where I flourish, children flourish. Where I'm happy, children are happy. Happy educators create a happy environment for children to flourish and grow and to build themselves up and know that they can. This summer, there were students I called, they hadn't been to school in 2 to 3 years, and they went to the bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning. They came to Riviera Beach Prep Academy, and they excelled, and they were so happy Thursday when they received their certificates of completion. That's all. Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am. State your name, please.
Ashley Labad. First, I would like to talk about the restraint policy. This needs to be thrown out unless you are willing yourself to be restrained exactly like these kids are. These are children, and you are mistreating them, and you did not have parental consent to do anything to them, so shame on you. When I start my school year, I like to reflect on the prior years so that I can be better. So let's do some reflection. March 2019-2020 school year. Wednesday, I had to tell my Wednesday through Friday, I told my students DC trip canceled, end of year dance canceled, safety patrol trip canceled, going online next week. 2020-21 school year. Started online, most students didn't want to participate, teachers were not effective. Depression set in for most students, teachers, and staff. Kids were told that they will kill their family members if they don't mask or if they socialize. Kids silenced, not heard, while board members took pictures and partied maskless. No gyms after school activities or interaction with peers. Kids loaded with technology and put in trance-like states. Speech and gains were plummeting. 2021-2022 school year. Burke said we need guns, laws, and lawyers and money. Feds showed up at the school board meetings. Masks continued for staff. Parents were arrested for standing up for the rights, for medical choices for their kids, standing for their beliefs and asking questions, or just standing at a school board meeting. Vaccine vans were put out at schools, 28 at elementary schools. We know now that the data has adverse reactions, and you knowingly did it. I was sent home August 9th for not masking. As a healthy teacher, I was not sick, and I even gave you a forensic audit about masks being harmful, and I was ignored. September 18th, school board members went to business development gala. Maskless, partied while kids suffered. Many kids were still living in fear to take off the masks. Depression and suicide rates skyrocketed. I sat through one of those meetings. Parents started FOIA requests to see what y'all were doing. Thanksgiving break, Mike Caruso wrote a letter to have masks taken off staff. November 29th, I was able to return to my classroom. Due to your policies, I was outcasted. I couldn't use common areas. I lost pay for 3 months. I was ignored, talked about, hated for standing up for my belief and health choices and what was good for my health and my family. We saw that the pandemic ruined innocent children, and the fun was taken out of their lives. School board starts taking parents out of their policies and procedures, and we had COVID nurses that were even sleeping at schools. ESSER funds go through this year. We even had inappropriate books that were showing oral and sexual intercourse, actual pictures. 2022-23 school year, Activate was pushed, which is a third-party company parents are not happy with. So much is being pushed by this board. We know you're corrupt, and we will stand for our children no matter what. We know that you see them as price tags, but our children are not for sale.
Karen Moran, Jennifer Showalter, Adrian Smith.
I'm Jen Schulter, here to discuss several issues. First issue being the board purposely placing a workshop and special meeting when it's virtually impossible for working citizens and staff to attend. These at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, by the way. These very important meetings going over what books should or should not be allowed is a topic of concern for all sides and should have been addressed in the main meeting or at a time that's respectful for working adults. It's yet another example of the egregious infringement on our free speech, individual, parental, and religious rights by the board. The next issue being swept under the rug is the immoral and illegal use of the Baker Act by our district. A U.S. District Court judge ruled against the school district in favor of hundreds of students with disabilities who were unlawfully handcuffed or were removed from school to have involuntary psych exams without parental consent, which goes against state law. The district used the Baker Act on at least 1,216 kids from 2016 to 2020, including 252 exams on elementary kids, some as young as 5 years old. And then the district sees black kids twice the rate of white, with 40 of 59 kids under the age of 8 in that period being black. The district sees kids who did not meet the criteria for the exam, such as kids manifesting behaviors of developmental disabilities that are specifically excluded from the statute's definition of mental illness, without consulting its own mental health professionals or even overruling the judgments of those professionals. In the initiated exams on kids for normal childish misbehavior, like a 9-year-old who was opposed a threat to others because he allegedly wanted to stab another child with a plastic fork. This overuse and misuse of the Baker Act by the Palm Beach School District is unjustifiable. It was found by the district, it was found that the district was aware it was misusing the Baker Act for years, but basically did nothing to eliminate unnecessary use or train its personnel or contractors on alternatives. It failed to take basic steps that could eliminate unlawful Baker Acts. And it unlawfully failed to allow parents who have the best knowledge of their kids and a constitutionally protected right to make decisions regarding their kids' mental health to decide if an eval was appropriate. Why is this board continually shelling out millions of dollars to mental health and just health contractors when it was found to fail to even use them or even ignored their advice, but instead forced decisions on police officers without the needed health credentials? The failures continue to this day. Just follow the money to find out why it's happening. There are a lot of people on this board who are in charge during that time frame. Accountability must happen. Those board members should tender their resignations immediately.
Thank you. Adrian Smith and Brad Johnson.
Good evening once again, everyone. Adrian Smith. The other topic that I wanted to address was public awareness of crises that are happening in schools and also acknowledging them by the board and the superintendents and the people that are in charge of the schools. One of the most defamating thing that happened was, of course, as everyone knows, the situation with the school books where they were actually teaching transgender topics to juveniles, to youth, that was not a part of the school curricula, but it was something that was brought up as a new topic, and governing our children with topics to consider changing their gender. I was so embarrassed when I asked my son, I heard about it on the news, about a book that you look at a gingerbread cookie and decide what gender you are. They had a depiction of this gingerbread cookie, the most outlandish, crazy, most mentally disturbed thing I've ever seen in my life, and yet happening right under your watch. No one is ever addressing this. No one is ever bringing this up to the public, and it takes the governor to take a step and to shut down these books and yank them off the shelves while nobody's saying anything. Nobody's going to the public. Nobody's explaining these problems. And this is the same problems that we have that I had brought up with the drugs, with the sexual immorality that's taking place in the schools, where we have in the parking lots, we have sexual acts going on inside the bathrooms, and there's just no control. People don't want to speak up about it, but then when a parent comes out and protests, they want to shoo them away. And this is a very serious wrong, and this is going to have to be dealt with, and it's going to have to be dealt with new leadership. What do I mean by new leadership? Well, the governor is going a step further in saying that the board is going to have term limits, which should have been taking place a long time ago, while they're protecting the protectionism of trying to keep the public from being aware of all the problems that are going on. So little by little, we're going to have to start getting to the public's attention, and we're going to have to start addressing these problems and let the community know what's going on, just like the Sheriff's Department does. They publish crimes. You can go on the website. You can find out everything that's going on instead of shoving everything under the rug and hiding it so people don't know what's going on with their children and the health of their children and the crises that are going on in the schools. We need to step up to plate, and we need to start acknowledging mistakes, going to the public and talking about it. Not like going in the public and ignoring all these problems as has been done in the past.
Brad Johnson.
Good evening, Superintendent Burke and school board members. My name is Dr. Brad Johnson. I've been a history teacher in the district for several years. If I were to ask you to name schools, legacy schools in your district, no doubt you'd do that, and there are several of them, as you know. If I were to ask you to follow up with who were these people, how have they impacted society? Some of them you'd know, some of them you'd struggle. My purpose for being here is just to say that I don't think anyone, school board members or stakeholders, should struggle related to understanding the legacy for these schools for whom people are named. My background relates to history teaching. My father was in the recognition business for 40 years, so that's part of my motivation for being here. But I would just point to the sign on the dais there with the mission statement and the effectiveness of it, that it informs everybody who's here of the district's principles, the district's mission statement, and I think the same should be true for those who enter any legacy school or legacy building, such as this one. No doubt at Dr. Garcia High School, the administrators will do a great job explaining Dr. Garcia's legacy. But over time, if that's not intentional and a priority, it just becomes unknown and forgotten. Many years ago, my daughter was a first grader at Elbridge Gale Elementary, and again, the school did a great job, and she had a good education there. I'm proud that she just finished her first year of teaching in the district. But again, educate, affirm, inspire. I'm advocating for a plaque such as the one I'm holding in district schools that would give biographical information. The superintendent, administrators don't need another thing to do. I'm happy to participate as needed. I think the students could do a great job researching that kind of information. But if that information was in the main office, in the media center, it would educate the public. It would affirm the decisions you've made. As you know, those decisions aren't made lightly to name buildings for people. It would inspire, because that information about those people and their legacies is inspiring. Some of you who've been around long enough remember a gentleman named Mike from maintenance who would come to every school board meeting and speak every month. Certainly Dr. Johnson would remember Mike. I'm not going to be Mike. I'm not going to be here. This will be the last time I'll be speaking about it. But again, I would be glad to be involved, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Robbie Littles, I understand you're here now. You run agenda speaker. I guess you're not here. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thank you. I don't know, good afternoon or good evening to the chairman of the board, school board members, superintendent, and staff. I am Robert G. Littles, chairman of the Bridge Builders of Palm Beach County, and I addressed the board several months ago specifically about our concern about the low salaries paid district teachers. We asked you, in total, or at least 4 of you, to approve a county referendum election in support of a 2 cents sales tax increase. which, if approved, would provide $540 million per year for 10 years that would be used exclusively to increase the teacher starting salary in Palm Beach County School District to $85,000 per year and simultaneously provide a decent increase in salary for all on-board teachers and obviously veteran teachers. It's nice to see that the board was bold enough to make the superintendent's salary competitive. So we simply ask you again to be just as bold and allow taxpayers in Palm Beach County to express their concern, their love, their appreciation for teachers, and let them decide whether teachers in Palm Beach County, as quickly as possible, should have a starting salary of $85,000. That is our request to you again, that at least 4 of you, again, demonstrate your boldness for the people who do the most work and suffer the greatest crime in America, the paltry, meager salaries paid to public school teachers, and hopefully help to correct that by going to referendum for an increase of 2 cents on sales tax to be used exclusively for an increase in starting salaries for teachers in Palm Beach County to $85,000 per year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Littles.
I'd just like to share that in Florida, under statute, that a sales tax referendum can only be used for capital improvement, and a school board is limited to a half penny. What we are able to do is go for a property tax levy for operational expenses, including teacher salaries, which this board had done in 2018 and then had it approved again in 2022, with 50% of those proceeds, over close 120 million, probably more at this point, going to teacher salaries. And that's what has allowed us to create the teacher retention supplements of $1,000, $5,000, and $10,000 based on experience. So this board has done everything you can under the current law. And I'll follow up with Mr. Littles to kind of explain what constraints are in place in Florida in terms of your ability to raise more taxes through referendum. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I believe I've called on everybody that was on the list. So that'll take us to the board discussion items. Mrs. Whitfield, 81.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to bring this up again. I know I brought it up last year, and we did not come to a great resolution on it, but I wanted to ask the superintendent to check again. My proposal is to look again at Juneteenth and giving that as a holiday to our employees. It is, a national holiday. I guess we're 3 years into it now. And every time I talk to our employees around that day, and I realize they don't have the day off, but county employees do, and many other organizations around the country are giving that day off. It just feels like a really important day for us to recognize here, especially being the school board. So I wanted to ask if the superintendent would once again look at that, and if my other fellow board members agree.
Vice Chairwoman Brew.
Thank you. So I know the question came up this year, and actually I know we're giving Ms. Solnit our lobbying issues, and so one of the issues that I'm giving her is flexibility with our holidays. Our paid holidays are limited, and I know the superintendent will address this, but he was looking into whether staff holidays go into that count just like the students' holidays. But there have been other holidays like Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, other holidays that have come up over the years, and yet we're constrained by Tallahassee. So when we have our discussion on the legislative priorities, I am going to bring that up, and that was the catalyst for it.
Go ahead, Mr. Superintendent, do you have something you want to add?
I would just say I'm happy to look into it. In the past, the constraint we ran into was a statute that limited us to 6 paid holidays. The holiday takes place, of course, in June, so we're typically not in school or we're in summer school session, so we could schedule around that as far as having students in attendance. But the bigger issue, if we're truly going to recognize it as a holiday for all employees, then we need to see if we can navigate that limitation. And we have seen a couple other districts have been able to celebrate the holiday and close their offices and schools. So we're working with Mr. Kubrick and the team to see what we can figure out what flexibility the board may have.
Mrs. Andrews.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Burke, because we did participate. I had an opportunity to participate in Juneteenth in my region, and we were in the parade, and we had quite a few of our people, especially those who were not at work, to participate. But I think the legislative piece is a way to go. But if we can't move it through the legislative piece, I think we have to find a way among ourselves to make sure those that truly want to go to these activities, participate and learn. It was one of the best celebrations that I have attended in a long time. I know we all celebrated the 4th of July, but just celebrating Juneteenth and understanding what it really means as it relates to our community, our black people, where we've come from. It's really a truly great holiday, and we've got to figure out a way, if we can't get it through legislation, to be able to let the folks that truly want to go and participate and learn and celebrate have an opportunity to do it. The students are not here, so it's like the folks that are working, and some of them were able. I think some of them had the ability to come out and participate. Sometimes it's an all-day event, and they came right after work to participate because they wanted to. So I think more businesses, more operations such as the School Board of Palm Beach County and others are going to find a way to get us out there. And if we can make it permanent, that would be great. But while we're working on it, I want to make sure that we can come up with some flexibility to allow people to participate. Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson.
Point of information first, Mr. Chair. I would like to ask a question to Board Member Brill regarding her comment. Did Ms. Solnett advise you as to what she thinks the appetite for getting the law changed would be in Tallahassee this upcoming session?
Good.
So she didn't really discuss that, but given the fact that it doesn't cost anything, I think it might be something that we can fix because this has been a constraint over the years. We know we have a calendar committee, and issues have always come up regarding holidays. So she does not weigh in on whether she thinks it's going to work or not work. What she's going to do is put together the ideas that we have, and then we can discuss them all together.
Has there been any attempt to modify the law of the last 3 years? I can't imagine that we're the first one to think of it in the state of Florida.
Not that I know of.
Well, that's a shame. Mr. Chair, a question for the superintendent. Mr. Superintendent, can you remind me of the 6 paid days that we have? You discussed it with me about a month ago, but I'm coming off of vacation, so trying to get back.
Yeah, it's part of our calendar that's posted online. We have, I think, Memorial Day, Labor Day, July 4th, Thanksgiving, Christmas Day. I may need some help there from Mr. Kubrick, or I can pull up the calendar.
Pulling it up. Hold on one second.
I just want to make sure that I'm not including a holiday maybe that when we're closed for a break that wouldn't count towards that. But
Well, I think it also flexes depending on what day of the week certain holidays fall on.
Right.
So for the 6 paid holidays, it's Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving. It's used as winter break, but it's like Christmas, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and Memorial Day.
Thank you.
Okay, so I see why there's great difficulty in doing this, but respectfully, if we're giving the 4th of July off, which, I mean, until 3 years ago, that was what we thought of as Independent Day. For those of us who are descendants of the so-called black man, specifically those who were enslaved in this country, our Independence Day effectively is Juneteenth. So I can't see how we recognize those, what happened in 1776. I hope I'm correct. I'm sure my history teacher will wrap my knuckles, but in any event, yeah, I mean, that's not the full story. We as a country weren't fully independent until Juneteenth happened. So I think that we need to do what is necessary now even. So let's not even wait for legislative action because, I mean, we're smart, but it's not like we're the smartest people in the state of Florida. This could have been done 3 years ago if there truly was an appetite. So having said all that, I guess the question I mean, I know we're not going to make a ruling on this today and we're just discussing, but the question would be which of these days would need to be bumped. I mean, it's going to tip off somebody, but I think when we talk about being equitable and being respectful, Juneteenth definitely should be a day that persons have off as a paid holiday, not just, okay, you can stay home and I won't fire you for missing it. It should be paid. I was contacted by a lot of constituents, so respectfully, I wasn't engaged by teachers and things of that nature who were in summer school, but just the residents. They thought the optics were off, and I wholeheartedly agree with them. So I don't know whether we're talking about maybe Labor Day. I would have trouble, and I know we're not going to take a motion, but we're discussing this. I would have great trouble with taking Memorial Day off the slate for paid holidays, but perhaps Labor Day might be one. I know we look like the redhead stepchild, but until we get that extra 7th day in Tallahassee, I think we have to do what we have to do, or we could just give the district a paid day on Juneteenth and dare somebody to tell us that we're wrong. I mean, people have shown over the last 3 or 4 years in particular that they're ultimately on the wrong side of history in that regard. So I think it's never a bad time to do what's right. And so, again, for the reasons that I've already mentioned, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Chair, I definitely would like us to get this on the actual agenda sooner than later for us to be able to vote it up or vote it down. And I'm hoping that at least 4 of us will agree that this is something that we need to do as a matter of equity and just, I'll leave it as equity for now, but it's something that we need to do. Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews.
Mr. Ferguson, I'm just as eager to get it on as you are, but I just know our process here with our committee. I know that the board does make the final decision. Certainly, I like the idea of trying to do something in Tallahassee, too. And I don't know what will happen in any of these pieces as whether we can make it all happen the way we're talking about paid and everything perfect for this coming Juneteenth. But I did get the commitment from the superintendent as I was participating in my communities that we're going to step up to the plate to kind of make something happen. I don't know what it's going to look like because I'd like it to look like what you're saying, but if not, I know we can do better than what we did this past year. And as people learn about Juneteenth, it's a federal holiday. You got the cities and all the other people really celebrating, wondering where we are as a school board. So I've been committed from the superintendent that we're going to step up to the plate to do whatever we have to do. But I know there's a lot of conversation with those days before we can just jump up in it. I know we do make the final decision, but we have to be very careful through that process.
Vice Chair Brill.
Thank you. And so I understand what you're saying, Mr. Ferguson, but I don't know that I have an appetite to bump one holiday over another. But what I would like to do is, since you brought up the question about how Ms. Solnit feels that it would be received, perhaps the superintendent can speak to Ron LaFace and get his feel for whether the legislature would be supportive of something like that, because I don't believe it's been discussed. I think that we could get support through the other entities in Florida. Certainly, if we can speak to some of the other board members that we know in other districts, and I think it's something that might be feasible.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ferguson, go ahead.
So I know that Superintendent Burke has advised me, and I'm sure he has advised all of you, that there are counties in Florida that are paying for that extra 7th day already. So I know there's reservation and apprehension throughout the state about essentially getting your knuckles wrapped or worse based on what's happening up in Tallahassee. But I think some things are worth kind of getting dusted up about. These people in Palm Beach County elected all of us, and many of them in many of your districts look just like me. And without their support, many of us wouldn't be here. And I just think it's time to do right by Palm Beach County. Really, just from a humanistic standpoint, it's something that we really need to do. So even if it technically doesn't meet the letter of the law, and I'm sure I have some opponents, saying, oh, the attorney is up here telling us that we need to deviate from the law. But again, we have precedent for it. There are certain counties that are already doing it, and it's something that we need to do. So I guess I'll be more direct. I would like us to at least, let's vote it up or vote it down, but show respect to these citizens who thought enough to contact all of us after what happened for, I guess, the 3rd time now. Let's figure out what we want to do. Let's add this 7th paid day, and in the meantime, also reach out to Mr. LaFace and whoever else is lobbying for us in Tallahassee to see if we can get it to a vote in the House and to the Senate as well. I mean, we all know our representatives in Tallahassee as well. So let's motivate them as well to say, hey, this is something that we need to get done. This should be something that's not about being an R or D or an I. It's just about being right and respecting somebody or somebody as a race who is a foundational piece of this country. No matter how you feel about it, America is not what it is without black people, and so I think we need to recognize that. As far as that goes. So just to make sure that everybody's hearing me clearly, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Chair, and my colleagues, I think that we really should try to work on this in the next meeting or two, vote it up or vote it down as far as making Juneteenth of 2024 a paid holiday. So if there are any year-long workers or 200-day workers or whatever the case may be, or students in summer school, they get that day off just like July 4th, because you can't talk independence in the U.S. of A. without talking about Juneteenth. And I thank you for your indulgence.
General Consul, my understanding is if we violated the law and paid all the employees for not coming to work and the state came down on us, we'd have to figure out a way to get all those employees to come in or give back the paycheck that they got for that day. Can we violate the law and give employees 7 paid holidays when the state law says 6?
The truth of the matter is we don't know what the potential consequences will be. We do know that it would be a violation, right. But we don't know what the potential consequences will be, and that's something certainly we'd want to dive into and look into, and it's something that we've been in talks about.
Mr. Superintendent, then Mrs. Whitfield.
Well, first, I appreciate the discussion. It seems like there's a lot of interest and support to try to find a way to make this work. I'm not going to bring a recommendation to the board that would put you in a position of breaking the law. We're all constitutional officers. To me, that's not really an option. But there's some things that I think make this maybe more possible. In that, first, it's a holiday that falls outside of our school year. Our teachers by contract get 6 paid holidays. So that's why you hear 6 that fall within the school year. But let us see. What it really comes down to, it's really that the 12-month employees that are working year round, if we have the latitude to close our offices for a day. And I want to do a little research. We did, I know, on a previous superintendent, we expanded our Thanksgiving holiday to a week, and we rescheduled our school days around that. So I'm not certain that there's not a viable path to get to where we want to be. But I do need to do more research. And then to Ms. Andrews' point, if we hit a roadblock and we feel like we cannot do it under the current legislation, then what can we do to as a district to celebrate that holiday in earnest? And we've run into that with Veterans Day in the past, where we had to be open on Veterans Day, so we tried to ramp up the educational benefits of explaining to the kids Veterans Day. But I think I've heard a lot of direction from the board here, and I think you've given us what we need to go to work on this further.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I'm really glad there's so much support on this board for this. I just wanted to say I think we have enough time to be able to look into this further. It's not for another 11 months, and we've got a whole legislative session between now and then. We could try the legislative route. If it doesn't work, then reconvene about it before this happens. It's really not going to impact a whole lot of schedules with the students. So I think we could probably add this in at the end of the school year next year without any real struggle. So let's try to go the first route, and if it doesn't work, then come back. But I would love to hear what both legal and the superintendent's office says on this. So thank you all very much for indulging that.
I'm sorry, everybody that's raised their hand has spoken twice, so we're not going there.
It's not an agenda item. Point of order is not an agenda item, though. It's a board discussion.
Board, General Consul?
Not.
That's correct. On discussion, it's open-ended, that the two times to speak is limited to when there's a motion on the floor, according to our policy. So, yes, it's open discussion.
All right, go for it.
Go. No.
Mrs. Andrews and Mrs. Ferguson.
Yeah, Mr. Burke, we really discussed it heavily because of our participation this year, and I saw more participation, more people that are learning about Juneteenth. I mean, when it first became the holiday, most people didn't even know this past year, it was ramped up everywhere. You saw it at national level, you saw it at local levels, you saw the parades, you saw a lot of people participating. So as we get into this, I think people will have more knowledge. And I wanted to ask Mr. Burke, since you're a leader with the Superintendents Association, could you check with them to find out what they're doing? Because what we're talking about, they're talking about it too, and you're already a leader there. So could you check on them and see what's going on? Because everybody wants to make sure people have knowledge to celebrate and be able to participate. And it is new, so we're all learning. So if you could do
Yes,
that, I would.
I'd be happy to do so.
Mr. Ferguson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it possible for us to calendar this for a workshop? Because I hear what Board Member Whitfield is saying, but life moves pretty fast, and before we know it, we'll be in 2024, July or August. So would it be possible for us to go ahead now and calendar this for a workshop for some time during school year 23-24? And that way we have these deadlines, because the same, I notice in a lot of segments of life, nothing really gets done unless you have a deadline. So we're saying today, yeah, this is something that's important, but unless we have an actual deadline, I'm not so confident that we're going to have a whole lot of movement on it. I mean, and I've had a few issues that we've discussed since I've been here where, it's not necessarily going to be coming back up anytime soon, but this is something that's important, and it actually transcends, with all due respect parades, and things of that nature. Again, this is something I'm not discounting what you're saying, but it actually goes beyond that, particularly with the weather as it was. I wasn't going to a parade on June 19th in that regard. For Juneteenth. But I definitely respect the sentiment and the sacrifice of all our ancestors who died and fought for freedom of all colors. But again, that's the Independence Day for the so-called black person here in America. It really is, and I think we need to appreciate it as such. But we have 1,000 different things that I know we're going to work on this upcoming school year. But again, I think it's important for us now to converse and figure out, hey, when can we put this in a workshop? I'm hoping it's not a workshop that takes 2 and 3 hours. But even if it did, so what? We've been elected by the constituents to do the hard work. So sometimes maybe we need to be here for 10 or 11 hours. I hope not, but maybe. But again, the workshop is something I think we really need to take time to do. I know some persons are looking down. I know it's getting late, 6:30 at least. I'm gathering is late for this board, but be that as it may, we need to set it up for a workshop and then figure out what the pros and cons are, which counties have actually done it, because I'm not going to just ask Superintendent Burke right now, quick, Mr. Burke, tell me which counties have done it and how they went about it. I understand that you need time to prep for it, but be that as it may, prep needs to happen and we need to make a decision. Our constituents deserve that from us.
All right. So
I'm asking if we can get that on the workshop sometime this school year.
So in order for the board to direct the superintendent for a workshop, there has to be consensus. So I suggest to you first,
yes,
let's the superintendent come back to us and tell us whether he can get it done. We don't need a workshop if he comes back and says, we figured out a way to get it so it's illegal, and then the board can do we can do an agenda item and have the superintendent get it on the calendar, get it to the calendar committee. There's no sense having a workshop if Mr. Burke can come back to us and say, we found a way to get this done. So, Mr. Burke, can you come back to us in the next couple weeks, the next several board meetings, within the next month, and let us know whether or not there's a way to accomplish the objective of adding a 7th holiday?
Yes, the help and support I need is from legal, our finance team, our HR team, working through that piece of it. I don't think to me that'd be more productive. Let me chase down a solution through the staff. I will reach out to Mr. LaFace, to FADS as requested, and then try to bring you back an action item. Then that would be probably the most efficient way to go. Because we could, another workshop may just sit here with us wringing our hands again about how we're going to do this.
Mrs. McQuinn?
Thank you. First of all, this board has often been here well past 6:30. So I don't think I'm looking down because I'm trying to think. So not looking down at my watch to end a meeting just because it's getting late. We are often accustomed to staying late. The other thing that Mr. Burke and Calendar Committee has to take into consideration are our other 12-month employees. It's not just this district office. Our principals are 12-month employees. So our regional offices have many 12-month employees, and we have different representatives working with those organizations. So it's a matter of getting a lot of information before we may not need a workshop on this one item. Believe me, calendar committee, when it comes back, that's a biggie. We won't be out of here at 10:30.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Ferguson.
Ms. McQuinn, of all the people on this board, if I had something to say to you directly, you know that I would say that to you. I've known you for too long. So when I said that, it wasn't in reference to you. Now, obviously, you were looking down. I guess I didn't know that, but thanks for letting me know that. And also that 6:30 is not too late for you. I'm just going by what I've seen over this time. We do tend to start rushing things as we get closer to 7. That's a fact. It's on video. So it's not really something for me to have to advocate for. But I definitely did not mean, I'm sorry that you felt as if you were being insulted, but I wasn't even looking at you when I was talking. Ms. Carnes would not be so happy about that. So, yeah. But that's it. This playful banter between us, we've known each other for going on 30 years now. So.
Okay, I think I have direction. Let me get to work, team. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Ms. Whitfield, for putting that there. Ms. Breaux, you're next.
So thank you. So all of us attended graduations, and you know that Mr. Burke, part of his speech was mentioning Chat GPT. And for those of us that went to Kristen Burke's retirement party, Mr. Barbieri spoke about how easy it was for him to go on Chat GPT to be able to create his speech in her honor. And so over the last few weeks, as we've been quiet, I started thinking about it, and I did speak to legal. I wanted to let everybody know that I have a real concern. Well, it's twofold. There's a positive side and a negative side. I want to make sure that our students, you know, our young students, they are much more technologically savvy than we are. And so it's our high school students may understand that Chat GPT is plagiarism, but our younger students may not. And I think we need to put it in policy and spell it out, because just like we've had issues with some weapons where students didn't realize they were weapons, I think that we really need to clarify in policy. So I did ask General Counsel to bring back, and she mentioned the Student Code of Conduct as bringing that back, so that, and I wanted to make sure that everybody else was on board with that, but I think we need to make it very clear to students on the one hand. On the other hand, when I brought this up to Mr. Burke, he did bring up, and I think it's a great opportunity in our high schools, these children are going to be moving in a world with a lot of artificial intelligence. You know that the actors' strike right now has mentioned artificial intelligence. And so there is an educational component at the high school level, and maybe even earlier. I know that Mr. Burke mentioned that they're going to have artificial intelligence at Joaquin Garcia High School. So I think that, you know, when we start talking about other career programs, I just want to put it out there, too, that we might want to have the superintendent and staff explore opportunities for our students to learn about that. But I do think that it's really critical. This world is moving fast, and I envision us seeing more students. We're going to have to find a way for essays to be looked at to see if they can identify, and I don't know how they do that without artificial intelligence to figure it out. So that was my item.
Mrs. McQuinn, then Mrs. Andrews, and Mrs. Whitfield.
I'm sure that Mrs. Whitfield already knows from her daughter being in high school that, yeah, absolutely, papers today. I don't know what system our teachers use, but there is one that literally will look for a given number of words or phrases that will come up. And even if the student isn't plagiarizing, it looks like they are sometimes. So, but I know that at middle school they're doing the same thing. Don't know about elementary school, but there are very specific ways that these papers that kids are writing are being flagged today. We just don't know them.
Ms. McQuinn, Ms. Andrews, and then Ms. Whitfield. So Ms. Andrews was next, I think.
I was just in Washington with the Council of Great City Schools, and that's a piece of what they're doing, Mr. Burke, working with all of the other large urban school districts on this artificial intelligence, AI. So if you could just touch base with our contacts.
Yes, thanks.
Mrs. Whitfield and Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you. I think this is a great idea. Mrs. Brill, I'm glad you brought this forward. I do know that I listened to a great podcast the other day about this, and I thought it was really interesting, the amount of technology that's being used. And so we may want to look into if we need to invest as a system in purchasing this for our teachers to be able to run, their essays and things through so we can know whether or not they've been plagiarized. So I would just encourage that we look into that and see if we need to allocate funds.
Mr. Ferguson?
I have a question for Ms. Whitfield. Board Member Whitfield, so are you referring to more of a computer program, like the students would need to submit their in Word so you could look at the metadata to figure out if it was okay?
Yeah, the podcast I listened to had a college professor that used one, and apparently it was very effective at detecting. And so I just make sure, I don't know if it costs anything, but it's something that we could look into as a board.
Yeah, because otherwise I don't know how you can say that Superintendent Burke is the next Edgar Allan Poe and you're going to penalize him because he's writing stuff in the 10th grade that I can't even write as a 40-plus-year-old. But if you look at the metadata, I suspect it can kind of tell you certain things that mere mortals like myself can't figure out when I look at it in black and white.
It's a lot of fun to use. I put this speech together I put all this stuff in about me, right, and different organizations that I've been involved with and all this, and this thing wrote like this 2-page. I showed it to my wife and she goes, I mean, this thing was like amazing. I was like impressed with myself. And my wife looked at it and she said, who is this guy? I said, all I want you to do is save this for my obituary. That's all. Save it. It is a lot of fun to use. Did use it for Madam Burke at her retirement party, and it was hilarious what it came up with. But it's a lot of fun to use. Miss General Counsel.
I just want to say that, yes, I did have a very interesting conversation with Board Member Brill. It was very insightful, and I've since done, some research of my own, and I did want to just add and set some expectations on the policy work that will go into this. It is not going to be as simple as just adding some language about artificial intelligence. As you all have indicated, it may require us to purchase equipment, and so there may be some additional things that we're going to want to incorporate into that policy. And then, of course, as we've heard, there are some legitimate educational purposes for potentially using artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of additional conversations that have happened since our conversation, Ms. Brill, and it is going to take quite a deeper dive than even I was thinking. And I'm, like Mr. Barbieri, I was shocked and surprised at how far our technology has come. So, you've got lawyers. We're going to have to get educated on this, and we're going to be obviously working in partnership with the superintendent and staff, and really making sure that we understand how to best capture this in our policy. So, and I'm committed to doing that work.
All right. There are no other comments? We need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.